Class 3, Subject Science, Chapter 19, Light and Sound, Part 2. Chapter 19 has been taken from your EVS book, that is Environmental Awareness book. Shadow. What is shadow? Can you see a dark patch on the wall? Yes, this dark patch is known as shadow. Whenever any object blocks the path of the light, a black patch is formed on the screen or on the wall, and that is known as shadow. You know, light travels always in a straight line. So, if it is blocked, there must be shadow formed. Let's take an example. When light coming out of torch is blocked by an object called cone, the shadow will be formed on the screen. Now we will talk about shadows made by sun. In the morning, the sun rises from the east. So, the shadow of this tree will be formed in the west direction. And the shadow of the tree will be long. Because sun is low in the sky, and when the sun is low, it will cast the long shadow. So, during morning, the shadow will always be long. Now, if we talk about noon, that is midday. The sun is just above the tree and cast a short shadow, or we can say during the afternoon, the shadow is the shortest because the moon is just above our head. So, when sun is just above our head, the shadow that is formed will be the shortest. Moving to the next topic, that is in the evening. When the sun goes in the west direction in the evening and it is low in the sky, it again casts a long shadow. So we have come to the conclusion that in morning and in evening the shadows will always be long, and in afternoon the shadow will be the shortest. You can see here, shadows in the morning and evening are long, while shadows at noon are the shortest. We can take another example to understand the concept of shadow. This is a stick. Now, when we will talk about the east direction, at 9 a.m. the shadow is long. Then at 10 a.m. it is getting shorter, and at 12 noon it is at shortest. And now you can see, when our source of light is in east, the shadow is formed in the west. Means shadow will always form in the opposite direction of the source of light. Now in the evening, when slowly sun is moving towards the west direction, you can see the shadows are forming in the east directions. Okay, like in 2 p.m. now the size of shadow is increasing. At 2 p.m. then we have longer at 4 p.m. and again at 6 p.m. If we compare with 4 p.m. the shadow is longer at 6 p.m. So we have shadow is long during the morning and evening, and shadow will be shortest during the noon time. And next thing what we have discussed, that shadow will always be formed in the opposite direction to the source of light. We have three types of objects. These are transparent objects, translucent objects, and opaque objects. What are transparent objects? Transparent objects are the objects that allow light to pass through them completely. Example, clear plastic bottles, clear glass. translucent objects. Objects that allow some light to pass through them. Example, frosted glass and plastics. They do not allow the light to pass through them completely. Only the partial light will be able to pass through them. And we are not able to see the objects properly. It will be a blur image into our eyes. Moving to opaque objects. Objects that do not allow light to pass through them are called opaque objects. For example, wood, wall. They do not allow the light to pass through them. So let's discuss some points related to these objects and shadow. The object must be opaque or translucent to make a shadow. Opaque objects form very dark shadows. Shadow formed by a translucent object is lighter than a shadow formed by an opaque object. A transparent object will not make any shadow as light will pass through it. So, the path of the light will not be blocked and shadow will not be formed. I hope you must have understood the concept of shadow. Thanks for watching the video.